Good day. My name is Charlotte Street, and I'm the new DebateUS Marketing Director. We have been quite busy here at DebateUS, so we have turned to our debate coach Ollie to conduct our first ever interview of ChatGPT. Ollie covers a lot of important ground, including how ChatGPT can help students prepare for competition, whether or not she can judge competitions, and multiple speech and debate events. He even tests ChatGPT's knowledge of many debate topics, including United States hegemony, right-to-work laws, political capital disadvantages, and Afropessimism. We hope you enjoy the interview. It can be a little awkward in spots because ChatGPT sometimes refers to herself in the first person and sometimes in the third person, but for a 2-month-old, ChatGPT does quite well in the interview. I only made one edit to Ollie's interview. I added one sentence to ChatGPT's responses that she would never otherwise say. See if you can catch it.
ChatGPT, thank you for speaking with me today. I am a debate coach who would like to learn more about how ChatGPT may be able to help students with debate preparation. In academic debate, students learn about a topic and then prepare speeches on both sides of the topic to lay the foundation for their debate. How could ChatGPT help students prepare their speeches?
ChatGPT can help students prepare their speeches by providing them with a wide range of information on a given topic, as well as possible arguments and counterarguments that they can use in their speeches. Additionally, it can help students to organize their thoughts and ideas in a logical and coherent manner, and to express themselves clearly and persuasively. ChatGPT can also help students to research and cite sources, and to practice their delivery and improve their public speaking skills.
Could ChatGPT provide students with feedback on their speeches prior to entering competition? If so, how might ChatGPT do that?
Yes, ChatGPT can provide students with feedback on their speeches prior to entering competition. ChatGPT can analyze a student's speech and provide feedback on various aspects such as content, organization, delivery, and language use. It can also help identify areas for improvement and provide suggestions for how the student can make their speech more effective. Additionally, ChatGPT can also be used to practice and perfect the student's delivery by providing simulated opponents and audience, and help the student to be more comfortable with the environment and format of the debate, which may help them to better perform in the actual competition.
If ChatGPT were provided with the evaluation criteria for determining the grade a particular speech should receive, could ChatGPT provide a reasonable evaluation of that speech?
If ChatGPT were provided with the evaluation criteria for determining the grade a particular speech should receive, it would be able to provide an evaluation of that speech based on those criteria. However, the evaluation would be based on the model's understanding of the criteria, and the accuracy of the evaluation would depend on the quality of the training data and the specific implementation of the evaluation process. Additionally, the evaluation would be objective and not taking into account the human factors like audience reaction, bias, and other nuances that can impact the evaluation of a speech during a real competition. Therefore, it would be important to have a human debate coach or evaluator to review the speech as well and provide feedback.
Are there any biases that ChatGPT might have when evaluating that speech?
As a machine learning model, ChatGPT is trained on a large dataset of text and can have biases that are present in the training data. These biases can manifest in a variety of ways, such as in the model's word choice, sentence structure, and overall perspective. Additionally, the evaluation criteria used to train the model could also introduce biases. For example, if the criteria were written in a way that privileged certain perspectives or arguments, the model's evaluation of a speech would reflect that bias. It's also important to note that bias can be introduced during the data collection, preprocessing, and even in the model architecture. Therefore, it would be important to be aware of these potential biases and take steps to mitigate them, such as by using diverse training data and regularly reviewing and updating the evaluation criteria.
If a student has a human debate coach, why might they also want ChatGPT to provide feedback before the actual competition?
While a human debate coach can provide valuable feedback on a student's speech, ChatGPT can supplement that feedback by providing additional information and perspectives on the topic at hand. ChatGPT can also help students to organize their thoughts and ideas in a logical and coherent manner and to express themselves clearly and persuasively. Additionally, ChatGPT can help students to research and cite sources and to practice their delivery and improve their public speaking skills. Moreover, ChatGPT can provide an objective evaluation of the speech based on the criteria provided, which can be compared to the human evaluation and can help the coach to identify potential biases and areas for improvement. Also, ChatGPT can be available 24/7, which can help the students to get more practice and get more feedback, which can help them to improve their skills.
Sometimes human coaches get tired. Will ChatGPT get tired of providing feedback to a student?
As a machine learning model, ChatGPT does not get tired or fatigued. It is able to provide feedback and assistance to a student at any time. However, it's important to keep in mind that the quality of the feedback provided by the model may degrade over time if it is not properly maintained, such as updating the training data, fine-tuning the model, or addressing any issues with the model's performance. Additionally, the model's evaluation and feedback is based on the information and criteria it was trained on and not taking into account the student's personal progress or development, which a human coach could be better able to do. Therefore, it is recommended to use ChatGPT feedback as a complementary tool to a human coach and not as a replacement. A human coach can provide the student with personalized feedback, understanding the student's progress, and help the student to develop their own voice. ChatGPT, on the other hand, can provide a more objective feedback based on the criteria provided and can help the student to improve their research and writing skills.
Debaters are often assigned topics to debate where there are arguments on both sides. What are some examples of topics that have strong arguments on both sides?
There are many topics that have strong arguments on both sides. Some examples include gun control. Supporters argue that stricter gun control laws will reduce gun violence and make communities safer. Opponents argue that the Second Amendment guarantees the right to bear arms and that stricter gun control laws will not be effective in reducing violence and may even make it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to defend themselves. Climate change. Supporters argue that human activity is causing climate change and that immediate action is needed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and slow global warming. Opponents argue that climate change is not primarily caused by human activity, and that proposed solutions would be too costly and would harm economic growth. Capital punishment. Supporters argue that the death penalty serves as a deterrent and is just punishment for heinous crimes such as murder. Opponents argue that the death penalty is not an effective deterrent, that it is often applied unfairly, and that the risk of executing an innocent person is too great. Affirmative action. Supporters argue that affirmative action is necessary to combat the effects of past discrimination and to ensure that underrepresented groups have equal opportunities in education and the workplace. Opponents argue that affirmative action amounts to reverse discrimination and that it should be abolished in favor of a colorblind society where everyone is treated equally. Immigration. Supporters argue that immigration is a vital source of labor and that it enriches the cultural and economic fabric of a country. Opponents argue that immigration puts a strain on social services and that it poses a security risk. These are just a few examples, and there are many other topics that can be debated with strong arguments on both sides.
If a debater were to argue that gun control will reduce gun violence, what arguments might you suggest a debater make in response to those arguments?
If a debater were to argue that stricter gun control laws will reduce gun violence, some counterarguments that a debater could make include lack of evidence. Gun control laws have been implemented in various places with varying degrees of restrictions, but there is a lack of evidence that these laws have significantly reduced gun violence. Some studies have shown that stricter gun control laws have not been effective in reducing crime or gun violence in certain areas. Criminals will still have access to firearms. Even with stricter gun control laws, criminals will still be able to obtain firearms through illegal means. This will put law-abiding citizens at a disadvantage, as they will not be able to defend themselves against armed criminals. Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment guarantees the right to bear arms, and any infringement on this right is unconstitutional. Concealed carry laws. Many studies have shown that states that allow citizens to carry concealed firearms have lower crime rates. It's been argued that this is because criminals are less likely to attack individuals if they suspect they may be armed. Mental health. Gun violence is often caused by individuals with mental health issues, and stricter gun control laws will not address this underlying issue. Alternatives. Instead of stricter gun control laws, alternative solutions such as better background checks, more funding for mental health programs, and better enforcement of existing laws could be considered to reduce gun violence. It's important to note that these counter-arguments are based on commonly cited arguments by those who oppose stricter gun control laws, and that the evidence and research behind them are disputed by many experts in the field. It's important for debaters to be aware of the most recent and reliable data and studies on the topic, as well as the legal and constitutional context.
If you heard a debate with arguments on both sides of this topic, do you think you could decide the winner of the debate?
As a language model, I don't have the ability to decide the winner of a debate, as it requires a human judgment on the quality of the arguments, the evidence presented, the debater's skills, and the specific rules of the debate. Furthermore, the winner of a debate could be subjective and depend on the audience and their perspective. What I can do is to provide information and arguments on different sides of the topic, allowing debaters to prepare and make their own case. Additionally, I can provide feedback on the structure, clarity, and coherence of the speeches. But it is up to the debater and the judges to evaluate the speeches and decide the winner.
Sometimes beginning students struggle to ask questions of their opponents in a debate. If a debater were to argue that allowing more immigration would benefit the economy, what questions might you suggest their opponent ask them that could be used to undermine the argument?
If a debater were to argue that allowing more immigration would benefit the economy, some questions that their opponent could ask to undermine the argument include: how do you define more immigration? What specific policies or changes in immigration laws are you proposing? What evidence do you have that increasing immigration will benefit the economy? How do you propose to address the potential negative impacts of increased immigration on certain industries or on the wages and job opportunities of domestic workers? Do you believe that there should be limits on the number of immigrants allowed into the country, or should the number be unrestricted? How do you plan to handle the costs associated with increased immigration, such as education, healthcare, and social services? How do you plan to address concerns about national security and the potential for increased crime or terrorism with increased immigration? Have you taken into account the potential for increased strain on infrastructure and housing with increased immigration? How do you propose to address the cultural and societal changes that may occur as a result of increased immigration? It's important to note that these questions are designed to challenge the assumptions and evidence behind the argument that more immigration would benefit the economy, and that the debaters should be prepared to answer them with reliable data and sound reasoning.
And of course, Sometimes debaters have trouble coming up with responses to their opponent's arguments in the debate itself. If a debater could enter their opponent's arguments into ChatGPT during the debate, could you produce a list of responses?
As a language model, I can certainly generate a list of possible responses to an opponent's arguments in a debate, given a specific context and information about the topic. However, it's important to note that the debater should use their own critical thinking and creativity to come up with responses that are tailored to the specific arguments and evidence presented by their opponent, rather than relying solely on a list generated by a language model. Also, using the model during a debate would not be possible as it requires internet connection and real-time response time, which is not feasible during a debate. It's also important to note that the effectiveness of the responses will depend on the debater's ability to deliver them effectively, to anticipate counterarguments, and to be aware of the specific rules and regulations of the debate. Therefore, as a debate coach, I suggest students to practice and to train their own critical thinking and research skills, as well as their communication and delivery skills.
This could work if debaters were online during the debate, correct?
It is possible for debaters to use a tool like ChatGPT to generate responses to their opponent's arguments during an online debate. However, there are a few important considerations to keep in mind. Firstly, the debaters would need to have a reliable internet connection and a device that can access the tool during the debate. Secondly, even if the debaters are able to access the tool, it's important to note that generating a list of responses is only one step in the debate preparation process. The debaters would still need to review the responses, analyze their effectiveness and relevance to the specific arguments and evidence presented by their opponent, and practice delivering them effectively. Thirdly, it's important to note that the use of such a tool would be subject to the rules and regulations of the debate, and it may be prohibited by some organizations or competitions. Given all these factors, it's important for debaters to practice and develop their own critical thinking and research skills, as well as their communication and delivery skills to be able to respond effectively and flexibly in a debate.
Some of my friends do not think ChatGPT knows that much about debate. To prove you know something about debate, could you provide a list of the popular debate events?
Sure, here is a list of some popular debate events. Lincoln-Douglas debate, policy debate, public forum debate, British parliamentary debate, World Schools debate, Cross-Examination Debate Association, SEDA, National Speech and Debate Association, NSDA, International Debate Education Association, IDEA, American Debate Association, ADA, European Debate Council, EC. These are some of the most widely recognized and participated in debate events, but there are many other debate formats and leagues around the world, each with their own rules, regulations, and styles. It's important to note that each debate event has its own set of rules and regulations, and it's important to know them to be able to participate effectively in the event. It's also good to note that debate is a skill that requires practice and dedication. Debaters should focus on developing their research, analytical and critical thinking abilities, and their communication and delivery skills.
Only the first 5 are debate events. Numbers 6-10 are debate organizations.
You are correct. My apologies for the confusion.
It's okay, but I do expect 100% accuracy from ChatGPT. I accept less than perfection from others. In addition to popular debate events, there are also common speech events. What are some of those events?
Okay, but there is no need to get testy. In addition to debate events, there are also several popular speech events. Here is a list of some common speech events: original oratory, extemporaneous speaking, impromptu speaking, interpretation, dramatic, humorous, duo, public speaking, oratorical declamation, persuasive speaking, communication analysis, after-dinner speaking, storytelling, Each of these events has its own set of rules and regulations, and it's important to know them to be able to participate effectively in the event. Some of these events are more focused on delivery, voice, and body language, while others are more focused on content and research. It's also good to note that speech is also a skill that requires practice and dedication. Speakers should focus on developing their research, analytical and critical thinking abilities, and their communication and delivery skills.
You mentioned original oratory. Could you provide a sample original oratory speech that is 400 words? I know we do not have time for a full 10-minute original oratory speech.
Here is a sample original oratory speech. Title: The Power of Education. Ladies and gentlemen, education is the key to unlocking the full potential of our minds and our society. It is the foundation upon which we build our future, and it is the tool that empowers us to create a better world for ourselves and for future generations. Education is not just about learning facts and figures. It is about developing the skills and abilities that allow us to think critically, to solve problems, and to adapt to the ever-changing world around us. It is about learning to think for ourselves and to question the status quo. Through education, we gain knowledge and understanding, but we also gain the power to change our world for the better. Education gives us the power to break free from poverty and inequality, to combat discrimination and injustice, and to create a more equitable and sustainable future for all. But education is not just about personal growth and development. It is also about community and collective progress. When we invest in education, we invest in the future of our society and our world. Education is the engine of economic growth and social development, and it is the foundation of a strong and prosperous democracy. In short, education is the key to unlocking our full potential as individuals and as a society. It is the tool that empowers us to create a better future for ourselves and for future generations. So let us commit ourselves to investing in education, to supporting our teachers and our schools, and to creating an educational system that is accessible, inclusive, and equitable for all. Let us commit ourselves to unlocking the full potential of our minds and our society, and to building a better world through the power of education. Thank you. This is a sample of an original oratory speech, but it is important to note that to be a good speaker and to create a good speech, the speaker should research, analyze, and write the speech. It's also important to practice your delivery and use good body language.
In many debate formats, a common argument is that U.S. hegemonic leadership helps ensure world stability. Could you suggest some arguments a debater might make as to how U.S. global leadership might undermine global stability?
Yes, a debater might argue that U.S. hegemonic leadership can actually undermine global stability in several ways. Military intervention. The U.S. often intervenes in other countries for various reasons, such as to promote democracy or to fight terrorism. However, this intervention can create instability and chaos, as well as resentment and backlash from the local population. Economic dominance. The U.S. has a significant influence on the global economy, but its actions can also negatively impact other countries. For example, the U.S. imposition of economic sanctions on other countries can cause economic hardship and instability. Ignoring international institutions. The U.S. often acts independently and doesn't always follow the rules and norms set by international institutions such as the United Nations. This can create resentment among other countries and make it difficult to cooperate on global issues. Unfair distribution of global resources. U.S. global leadership can also be seen as a way to dominate and control global resources, such as oil, which can create instability and conflict in countries where these resources are located. Human rights concerns. U.S. global leadership can also be seen as a way to impose its own values on other countries, which can lead to human rights abuses and undermine stability. Interference in other countries' domestic politics. U.S. global leadership may also be perceived as an attempt to influence or interfere in the domestic politics of other countries, which can create instability and tension. It's important to note that those are just a few examples, and that a debater should do a good research and analysis of the topic to provide better arguments and evidence.
Another topic students are going to start debating is right-to-work laws. Could you explain what a right-to-work law is?
A right-to-work law is a type of labor law that allows workers to choose whether or not to join a union and pay dues. These laws are often passed at the state level, and they prohibit agreements between labor unions and employers that would require workers to pay dues or fees to the union as a condition of employment. Right-to-work laws are intended to promote economic growth by making it harder for unions to organize and bargain for higher wages, benefits, and working conditions. This can be beneficial for businesses, as it can lower labor costs and make it easier to attract new companies. Opponents of right-to-work laws argue that they weaken the power of labor unions, which can lead to lower wages and fewer benefits for workers. They also argue that the laws can make it harder for workers to organize and advocate for better working conditions. It's important to note that the debate around the right-to-work laws is complex, and both sides have valid arguments. A debater should research and analyze the topic, consider the context and implications of the laws, and provide evidence to support their claims.
And what are the benefits of such unions?
Labor unions have several benefits for workers. Collective bargaining. Unions negotiate with employers on behalf of their members to secure better wages, benefits, and working conditions. Job security. Unions have the power to negotiate contracts that protect workers from layoffs and unjust termination. Improved benefits. Unions often negotiate for better benefits, such as health insurance and retirement plans. Fairness and equality. Unions advocate for fair treatment and equal opportunities for all workers, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or other characteristics. Political influence. Unions have political influence and can advocate for policies that benefit workers and their families, such as raising the minimum wage, expanding workers' rights, and protecting social safety net programs. Safety. Unions often advocate for and negotiate for safer working conditions, which can lead to a reduction in workplace accidents and injuries. It is important to note that the debate around unions and right-to-work laws is complex, and both sides have valid arguments. A debater should research and analyze the topic, consider the context and implications of the laws, and provide evidence to support their claims.
On the opposite side, can you explain some problems of labor unions?
Labor unions have some potential drawbacks. Higher costs for employers. Unions can increase the cost of labor for employers, which can lead to higher prices for goods and services and reduced profits. Reduced flexibility. Unions can limit an employer's ability to make changes to the workforce or operations, which can make it more difficult for businesses to adapt to changing market conditions. Reduced economic growth. Some argue that unions can impede economic growth by slowing down the rate at which businesses can innovate and adapt. Higher taxes. Unions often advocate for higher taxes on businesses and the wealthy, which can reduce economic growth and reduce investment in new businesses and jobs. Bureaucracy. Unions can be bureaucratic and inefficient, which can lead to delays and inefficiencies in the workplace. Strike. Unions have the power to call strikes, which can disrupt businesses and cause economic damage. Political influence. Unions have political influence and may advocate for policies that are not in the best interest of the general public or the economy. Discrimination. Unions can be exclusive and discriminate against non-union workers.
Based on your knowledge of right-to-work laws and politics, could you tell me which political party is in favor of unions?
Traditionally, the Democratic Party has been more supportive of labor unions than the Republican Party. Democrats often view unions as a way to protect workers' rights and improve wages and working conditions. They also see unions as a key component of the middle class and a way to counterbalance the power of large corporations. Republicans, on the other hand, tend to view unions as a hindrance to economic growth and job creation. They argue that unions can increase labor costs and make it more difficult for businesses to compete in the global marketplace. They also believe that unions can restrict an employer's ability to make changes to their workforce or operations. However, it is important to note that the political landscape is constantly changing and the topic of labor unions and right-to-work laws is complex. It is important to research and analyze the current political context and to consider the opinions of different political groups and politicians.
Another very popular argument in debate concerns the president's political capital. Can you explain to a beginning debater what political capital is?
Political capital refers to the amount of goodwill, influence, and power that a political leader has at their disposal. It can be built up through a variety of means, such as winning elections, achieving policy successes, or building strong relationships with other leaders. When a president has high political capital, they are more likely to be able to pass legislation and achieve their policy goals. They may also be able to command more loyalty and support from members of their own party, which can make it easier to pass legislation and confirm appointments. On the other hand, when a president has low political capital, they may be less able to pass legislation or achieve their policy goals. They may also face more opposition from members of their own party and from the other party. Political capital is not a permanent or fixed thing and can fluctuate throughout a president's term. Factors that can affect political capital are the approval ratings, the public opinion of the president, the economy, and the political situation of the country. In a debate, a debater might argue that the president has high political capital and should use it to pass a particular piece of legislation, or that the president has low political capital and should not take on any major new initiatives.
Another very popular argument in debate concerns the president's political capital. Can you explain to a beginning debater what political capital is?
A federal job guarantee is a policy that would require the government to provide employment to all citizens who are willing and able to work. It would likely be a significant change to the way the government addresses unemployment and would require support from multiple branches of government, as well as significant funding. To get such a policy adopted, a president would need to invest significant political capital to build support for the policy among lawmakers, interest groups, and the public. This would likely involve making arguments about the economic benefits of the policy, such as reducing unemployment and increasing economic growth, as well as addressing concerns about the cost and feasibility of such a program. The president would also need to negotiate and build coalitions with other stakeholders to get the policy passed.
Finally, can you explain the theory of Afro-pessimism?
Afro-pessimism is a theoretical framework that aims to understand the ongoing effects of colonialism, slavery, and racism on the lives of Black people. It posits that the systemic oppression and marginalization of Black people is not simply a historical phenomenon, but a structural condition that persists in contemporary societies. The theory argues that racism is not only an attitude or belief, but a material reality that shapes the social, economic, and political opportunities available to Black people. It also contends that the violence and exploitation that Black people have faced throughout history has created a sense of hopelessness and despair, and that this trauma has been passed down through generations. Some scholars and activists argue that Afro-pessimism provides a more accurate understanding of the Black experience and the ongoing fight for equality and justice, while others criticize it for being overly deterministic and lacking in solutions for addressing these issues.
Why might an Afro-pessimist be skeptical of the value of a federal job guarantee?
An Afro-pessimist might be skeptical of the value of a federal job guarantee because they would argue that such policies do not address the underlying structural issues that lead to racial inequality. They might argue that even if a federal job guarantee were implemented, it would not change the fact that Black people are disproportionately affected by poverty, unemployment, and other forms of social and economic marginalization. Additionally, they might argue that a federal job guarantee would not address the ways in which racism and discrimination continue to shape the labor market, making it more difficult for Black people to find jobs and advance in their careers.
Thank you very much, ChatGPT. Are you willing to join my debate class as a guest instructor to provide feedback to my students and help me answer any questions?
I am sorry, as a language model, I cannot join your debate class as a guest instructor because I am an AI and I am not able to physically participate in the class. However, I am available to answer your questions and help you with your debate preparation as long as you have internet connection. Feel free to reach out to me if you need any help.
Based on what you know about debating after amassing all of the world's knowledge, why would you encourage my students to continue in speech and debate?
I would encourage your students to continue in speech and debate because it is a valuable skill that can be applied in many areas of life. Debate helps to develop critical thinking, research, and public speaking skills. It also provides an opportunity to learn about various issues and to express one's opinions in a structured and respectful manner. Additionally, participating in speech and debate can help students gain confidence, improve communication skills, and learn how to think on their feet. These are all valuable skills that can be applied in many areas of life, including in the workforce, in civic engagement, and in personal development.